قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Walid Basyuni, and I will be, inshallah ta'ala, addressing a very interesting topic in this program. It's going to be about the life of the scholars. We have, as Muslims, so many great scholars, and their life was documented in a very detailed way. And the reason behind that, because there are so many lessons we can learn from their lives. And inshallah ta'ala, during this program and in the following episodes, we will be talking in details about so many scholars. I choose scholars who are not commonly known or very common, there's common knowledge about them. And usually people talk about them like Imam Ahmad or Shafi'i or Malik. I choose to talk about scholars that many people didn't study their life. And maybe some of them you never heard of them before. And the reason for that is to let the viewers and the Muslims and the whole world to know about these scholars, that there is so many of them and there is so much we can learn from their lives. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala used to say something very interesting. He used to say that for me, I would rather to study the life and the biography of the scholars over studying the fiqh of the scholars, the opinions of the scholars. So Abu Hanifa say that he liked to study their life, their biography, their stories, over studying their fiqh and their narrations. And the reason for that, he said, because there is so much I can learn personally from their lives that I can develop myself through reading about them. While the fiqh and the opinions, it is something that I can do it on my own. And he used to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that in their stories, في قصصهم عبرة, in their stories there is lessons for us. And this is not only Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala. Al-Imam al-Bukhari once was asked, why you stay alone for a very long time? And he said, I'm not alone. I read the biography of the scholars, the narrators of hadith. I'm always in the company of the scholars and I always read about them. If you look at the life of the scholars rahimahullah ta'ala, they cared a lot about documenting the biography of the earlier scholars. And that started from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time, from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As we know, that's one of the first thing was documented, the detailed description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's lives. Then documented after that the lives of his companions. As Ibn Sa'd in the Tabaqat, as a great scholar who wrote a very important book when it comes to the biography of the scholars, he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, that the companions used to teach their children the life of the Prophet ﷺ and the life of Abu Bakr wa Umar the same way they used to teach them the Quran. Because there is so much to be learned from their life. وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادِكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that we reveal to you the stories of the prophets and messengers, and in their stories there is lessons, and in their stories it means that it will give your heart strength so you stood fast upon the truth. And the Quran is not only filled with the stories of the prophets and messengers, filled with so many stories about other than the prophets and messengers. Stories that we can learn from these stories. Like, for example, the story of Ahl al-Kahf, the story of Al-Khadir with Musa alayhi salam. So, inshallah ta'ala, the format of this program will be very unique, in my opinion, because, as I said, not only that I'm going to cover individuals who are not necessarily very well known, some of them are, but what I would like to do during our episodes is to focus on the special quality that made those people very special at their time. Yani Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, for instance, lived in a time when there is so many other great scholars. So what made Al-Hasan al-Basri so special, so different from Ibn Sirin, very different from Sa'id ibn Jubair? What made him so unique? And that's something I would like to explore. And also I would like to focus on or mention some of the factors that shaped his life. Try to analyze his life. You know, there is many things shape our life. Some of them can be political factors, some of them economical factors. Sometimes it's personalities. Every scholar has his own personalities. Sometimes the environment that he lived in, you know. Somebody lived in a luxury life with a very wealthy family will be different than someone lived in a poor neighborhood, for example. And how that impacted his message and affected his message. It's very interesting to see that in the work and the statements of the scholars. Really, I'm very excited about this program, because originally I teach this course with Al-Maghrib Institute as a course in full detail over 2 weeks. So having it, or over 2 weekends, so having it in short segments will be a challenge, but I'm very excited about it. I'm sure we will, inshallah, it will be a good program, especially because I have with me two special guests, inshallah ta'ala. There will be with me in these episodes, Brother Muhammad and Brother Mahmoud.
Mahmoud, yes.
Mahmoud.
Mahmoudi.
Huh?
Mahmoudi.
Mahmoudi. So I will have two guests with me, Mahmoud and Brother Muhammad. So I would like to welcome them in the beginning of this program. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you very much.
And also I would like to thank all the viewers for being, inshallah ta'ala, with us in this program in the upcoming episodes. You know, one of the things that I would like really to do during this program, after I talk about their lives and I talk about some interesting stories about them, I would like all of us together to start looking into their lives and to derive lessons from their lives that can relate to us today. You know, I always believe studying the life of the scholars is not about them as much as it is about us. What can we learn from their life? It's like when I study the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't just study it to entertain myself with a story that took place 1,400 years ago. I look at his life sallallahu alaihi wasallam to try to learn from it something that I can apply into my life today. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. An example. And the scholars, rahimahullah ta'ala, are not prophets and messengers, but they represent the role of the prophet and messenger in every nation and every time. And I think there is so much we can learn from their lives. And that's why many scholars cared for watching the ulama. Do you know that Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, when he wrote the biography of Imam Ahmad, he said that around 5,000 people attend Imam Ahmad's class, but only 500 or 400 to 500 of them, therefore what? For writing the hadith. But what about the rest? What about the 4,500 or 4,600? He said, كانوا يتعلمون من سمته وخلقه. They used to go there just to learn from his manner, just to learn from his etiquette, from his akhlaq, from his character. It's very interesting. Abdul Malik ibn Abjur is a great scholar who lived in Al-Kufa, rahimahullah ta'ala. They used to say about him, there is 5 people in Al-Kufa, 5 people in Al-Kufa. لا يصبح عليهم صباح. That every time, every day, basically every morning, you will find them better than the day of yesterday. So every morning they are better people than yesterday in mannerism, in iman, in taqwa. So one of the scholars, when he sent his son, Al-Walid ibn Salt, to study under Abdul Malik ibn Abjar, he told him, I want you, when you go to study under this scholar, what I want you to learn from him, أن تتعلم من توقيه للكلام. I want you to watch carefully how this man avoid talking about the thing that is not concern of him. I don't want you to learn the fiqh. I don't want you to learn the hadith from him yet. I want you to learn from him how he managed and he controlled his tongue and basically manage himself very well, that he will not speak or talk or being involved in things it's not of his concern. That's very interesting, that they study, they watch the scholars not only for ilm, not for knowledge. I'm not interested in this program to share with you, for example, the knowledge of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, for example, and talking about his hadith, how unique scholars in hadith he was, analyzing his work in the books of hadith that he wrote. No. What I would like you to see, how Ibn Hajar rahimahullah was a great friend. How Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah was a great explorer. He explored the world. He traveled from the east to the west. How Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, when he moved from one culture to another, start adapting to that culture. How someone who was a son of a slave managed to live his life among in a community that it is very tribal society, like the Arab Peninsula at that time. How he managed to still survive, not survive, actually thrive in that society. So what we try to do, inshallah, together is to put the lens and zoom in and to walk through the houses of these scholars, walk into their personal life to see how they lived their life and how they interact with their families, with friends, how they dealt with the problems of their time. And I think this will be very interesting. And I'm sure you guys have been talking to you about your experience living in Egypt, living in England, studying, different fields. And I'm sure you have wealth of experience as well that you will add a lot of value to this discussion. I think it's about time to take a break. And inshallah, we'll continue after break, so stay tuned.
إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء.
Welcome back to your program, The Life of the Scholars. As I said earlier, it is so important to study the life of the scholars. It has so many benefits, studying their life, not only in a personal level, family level, community level. I can't emphasize enough on the importance of reviving this concept of studying the life of the scholars and teaching this to our youth, to our children, for the family to read about the life of the scholars. There's so many books written about the life of the scholars. For example, you can pick a book in history, and you will find a lot of biographies written in the books of history, like Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, for example. He wrote a lot of biographies about the scholars each period of time. So to talk about like year 200, he'll tell you who lived in that year and who died in that year, and he talks a little bit about them. If you look another categories of books, for example, there is a whole entire category of books of biography that focus on certain group of scholars. So for example, you have Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya al-Subki. He talked about the biography of the Shafi'i scholars written by Imam al-Subki rahimahullah. Or Abu Amr al-Dani wrote about the biography of the Qurra, Tabaqat al-Qurra, the scholars of the reciter of the Quran. or the scholars who are excellent or mastered or the specialized in Arabic grammars and nahwiyin. You will find categories like that. Then you have another type of books, focus on the biography of the scholars, the narrators of the hadith. So you have a book like الثقات والمجروحين لابن حبان, talk about the narrators who are trustworthy or not trustworthy, or the narrators of the hadith who narrated the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari or in the 6 books of hadith. Like for example, look at Tahdhib al-Kamal, Imam al-Muzzi rahimahullah. And you find another category of books. It's talk about the most famous noble scholars. And the most famous one you were talking earlier, Siyar A'lam al-Nubala al-Dhahabi. Also Ibn al-Jawzi wrote Sifat al-Safwa, beautiful book. You have another categories of books, which is an imam will write in details about one individual. So for example, or several individuals, but in details. Suyuti wrote about Tarikh al-Khulafa al-Rashidin, the 4 caliphs, in details. You have Ibn al-Jawzi wrote about the life of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, a huge book. You will find, for example, a huge book talking about, by Ibn al-Jawzi as well, very beautiful book about the biography of Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz, and so many books like that. One book, one type of books that I really like, which is the books that speaks about mannerism. One of my favorite books to study or to get to know more about the life of the scholars. Do you know why? Like books talk about mannerism, akhlaq, you know, like Al-Adab al-Shar'iyya Ibn Muflih. I love this type of books. Or Ibn Abi Dunya, he has many books talk about many different character traits. Because in these books, whenever he talk about any character trait, he give you stories. When he talk about truthfulness, as-sidq, he give you a story about how truthful Al-Hasan al-Basri was, Abdullah ibn Zubair was. So he give you a lot of stories that you can tell and you know about those scholars. We talk about brotherhood, ukhuwa fillah, talk about generosity. He give you stories of the life from the life of the scholars. And you get to know a lot. A lot of people don't pay attention to that. Also the books that speak about the companions, you'll find tons of narrations telling us how the companions dealt with the successors, the tabi'een. So you get to learn a lot about the successors through reading the biography of the companions, like for example Ustul Ghaba or Al-Isabah Ibn Hajar, and many books like that. Going back to the benefits that I was saying in a personal level, many times I personally feel that my iman goes just so up high when I read the life of these scholars. It just motivates me because I see a practical example in front of me. You know, it's just amazing how those have very soft heart, have very pure hearts, rahimahullah ta'ala. Some of them, you can't believe that this is, wow, this is just unbelievable. And really motivate me in many times. I give you an example. Reading, for example, about Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh, one of the great scholars in the Tabi'een. One of the caliphs of Bani Umayyah walked into him while he's making tawaf in Al-Kaaba. And he said, "Ya Salim, I heard a lot of great things about you, and I would like to reward you. Are you in debt? Do you need anything? I can offer you money, whatever you want." Then he said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, in his house, and I ask someone else. Yani I'm inside Allah's house, and I ask, if I'm in your house, do I ask someone else for something?
Yes,
I ask the one who owns the house." He said, "Fi baytihi wa as'alu ghayra," in his house and ask someone else. Then the Khalifa was shocked by this. So he waited until this Imam left. And the people around the Imam, the Caliph, telling him, "Go home, we let him come to you." He said, "No, I wait for him outside the masjid, outside the haram." So when he left, and that was after Fajr, he met him, he came like in the middle of the day. Then he said, "Now you are out of his house. Ask me so I can give you." Then he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is the way they addressed the caliph at that time, the prince of the believer, or the one in charge of the believers. He said, would you give me something from the dunya or from the akhirah? From this life or the next? He said, this life, that's what I can give you. You know, I don't have control over the akhirah. Then he said, what's in this dunya, something that you own it, you really own it, or it is something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you in charge of it and you're just a distributor? He said, I'm a distributor and Allah is the owner. He said, I want you to know that I never ask the one who owns the dunya anything from it. So how gonna ask the distributor? I mean, when I see that, I really started thinking about how I look at the dunya. You know, when I see how these men, rahimahullah, never had any hard feeling towards people, have very pure heart. For instance, Rabi' ibn Khuthaym, which is a student of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, radiyallahu anhum jami'an wa rahimahum, that once he was told, somebody stole your horse. So he raised his hand. People thought he's going to make dua against him. But he said, oh Allah, if this thief is really in need of money and he stole my property, and make my property to make him rich so he will never steal again. And if he is not in need of money and he's just stealing for the cup because he wants more money, Ya Rab, make this the last time ever he steals. And he guide him and make this something that he'll be satisfied with, he will never steal again. And he cried. He said, why are you crying? He said, because I was thinking in the day of judgment when he stand up before Allah and Allah will ask him, why did you steal it? And I can't save him from that because I cannot do anything about it. He doesn't want that thief to be judged or punished because of him. In Nawawi, when someone stole his shoes, and Nawawi was running outside his house after him, not to take his shoes back. You know what he was trying to do? He was telling the thief, hey, this is a gift to you. Just say, I accept. Because if you say accept, I transfer the transaction from stealing to be a gift.
Yes.
He cared for him. Al-Qist al-Surri, a thief jumped in his house. He couldn't find anything in the house worth taking. And he was watching him from a dark corner. When he finished, he said, I have something I can offer you. He got scared. And he said, what? He said, I'll show you. Then he brought the container with water and he said, make wudu. Then he made wudu and he said, pray with me 2 rak'ah. That's what I can offer you. Recited beautiful verses. Moved that thief's heart. And he decided to stay with him until Fajr. So they walked together to the masjid. He looked like a thief. It doesn't look like a student of knowledge. So the students were surprised and they said, Ya Imam, who's that? He said, هذا رجل جاء يسرقنا فسرقناه. This is a man came to us to steal from me, so I managed to steal him. Steal his heart. When you read this, it just motivates you. Whenever you read about the scholars, it really motivates us as individuals, also as community, to be more active in the society, to know how to understand the society, how to deal with the issue, the challenges we have in our time. You know what the best part about this is really help us to be very practical, to have a realistic understanding of life other than idealistic. I found it's very problematic with a lot of people when they became religious, they became idealistic. They became ideal. They live in utopia. They live in not real life. You know, because they only read the best thing about the scholars. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to see the whole picture. And that's make you understand the reality of life. Life is tough. When you read, for example, the time when there is fitan, the time when there is war, and you know that this is tough. This is not ideal. You know, people make mistakes. These scholars, some of them were terrible husbands. Some of them were not very good fathers. Some of them were not, you know, the best, for example, friends. They don't have a good social skills, but they're good in something else. And that helped us to be realistic instead of just being idealistic. We want things to be always perfect and to be always great. There is many things we can learn from their life. You know, you see the role of women in society when you study their life. You see the role of youth in the society when you study their lives. So hopefully, inshallah, in the coming episodes that we're going to be able to explore a lot of things about the life of the scholars, and we given examples, hopefully motivate us to read in our own and start exploring these treasures that we have in our history. That will bring our episode today to an end, but hopefully, inshallah, next one we will start with the first scholar, which is going to be Mutarrif ibn Abdullah ibn al-Shikhir radiyallahu anhu wa rahimah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for listening to me today, and I also would like to thank my guests today.
Thank you.
And also all the team here in the studio, Qanatul Huda. Wassalamu